The Royal Scots between the World Wars. When the guns fell silent on the 11th of November 1918, not all Royal Scots battalions returned home immediately. Those on the Western Front remained in France, Belgium, or Germany into 1919. The 1st Battalion, which had started the Great War in India and had served on the Western Front before redeploying to Salonika, was redirected to fight the Bolsheviks in Georgia in December 1918 and did not return to Edinburgh until April 1919. The 2nd 10th Battalion, on home defence duties until deploying to North Russia in 1918, remained there in support of the White Russians until June 1919, when their return coincided with the traditional riding of the Linlithgow marches, the centenary of which was celebrated in 2019. However, a number remained prisoners of the Bolsheviks for several years, some of whom died in captivity. Most Royal Scots were entitled to the following campaign medals: the 1914-15 Star, the British War Medal, and the Victory Medal, referred to affectionately as Pip, Squeak, and Wilfred. By the end of 1919, demobilisation was complete. Belief that there would never be another war, along with drastic national economies, rapidly reduced the size of the army. 2 regular Royal Scots battalions remained, the 1st and the 2nd, reverting to the practice of one remaining at home with the other abroad. Reorganisation of the Territorial Army in 1922 left only 2 territorial battalions, the 4th 5th, Queen's Edinburgh, in their drill hall in Forest Road in Edinburgh, and the 7th 9th Highlanders at East Claremont Street in the Bellevue area of Edinburgh. In a modernising army, the regimental training depot at Glencorse increased in importance. In 1920, royal permission was granted to change the title from the Royal Scots Lothian Regiment, which had reflected the Cardwell reforms of the army along geographical lines in the late 19th century, to the Royal Scots the Royal Regiment, to include the Royal Regiment title by which we had been known in earlier days. Queen Victoria had been born while her father was colonel of the regiment, and was therefore a daughter of the regiment. A march from Donizetti's opera of that name became a regimental march, played when royalty was present. In 1918, the regiment felt that close links should be re-established with the royal family. A request to King George V that Princess Mary might become Colonel-in-Chief was granted by the King and accepted by the Princess. Princess Mary attended the installation of the regiment's Great War memorials. In 1922, the opening of the Royal Scots Club in Edinburgh's Abercrombie Place, and in 1927, the memorial gates at the regimental training depot at Glencorse. The Great War Rolls of Honour can be viewed in the Royal Scots Bay of the Scottish National War Memorial in Edinburgh, and also further detail is available in the regimental website. In 1920, the 2nd Battalion undertook garrison duties in Ireland, seeing action in the Troubles that ended temporarily in 1922 with the creation of the Irish Free State, now the Republic of Ireland. 6 members of the battalion died on operations. Otherwise, overseas deployments and ceremonial characterised the years between the wars. In 1926, the 2nd Battalion moved to Egypt, and at Suez met the 1st Battalion, returning home after 7 years in Burma, India, and Aden. The occasion was the excuse for a grand celebration. Once back in the UK, the 1st Battalion acted in aid of the civil power in the general strike of 1926, and in August of that year, Princess Mary presented the 1st Battalion with new colours. Also in 1926, the King approved our alliance with the Canadian Scottish Regiment on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. In 1928, the 2nd Battalion moved to Tianjin and Peking in China to keep the peace between a period known as the Rise of the Warlords and then, in 1930, to garrison duties in India. In 1933, the regiment's tercentenary was celebrated by the 1st Battalion at Aldershot and the 2nd Battalion at Quetta, and pipers were granted the privilege of wearing raw Stuart tartan. In 1938, the 1st Battalion defended against the Arab Revolt in Palestine. 16 Raws were killed and 42 wounded. The 2nd Battalion went to Hong Kong, where they were shortly to make a gallant stand against Japanese invasion. Life for regular soldiers improved, with comfortable barracks, better food, and good medical and dental services. Uniform was of good quality, and pay was attractive because all basic needs were provided. Married men might have married quarters with allowances for their wives. The Army also encouraged saving. Education by the Royal Army Educational Corps qualified soldiers for promotion. Many senior warrant officers were commissioned. Recreational facilities were available, and sport, in which all ranks participated, had a high profile. Officers were professionally trained and took interest in the training and welfare of their men. The regimental association developed to encourage comradeship. A more technical army offered trade training useful in discharge and was an attraction to the recruit. Engagements were shorter, although a short engagement meant a longer period on the reserve. Overseas postings were popular because of the low cost of living. Even private soldiers could afford local servants and could take their wives with them if their service qualified.